SBF's former girlfriend and CEO of Alameda takes the stand, admits to Bitcoin price manipulation, Sam wanting to be president of the United States, bribing officials to prosecute Binance, and FTX creditors are pissed off as Genesis pays $175 million instead of the $3 billion they owed to Alameda. And Michael Saylor says Bitcoin will 10 to 100x after the spot ETF gets approved. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Crypto Daily. So Bitcoin's still sitting at the same range we were talking about yesterday, around 26,500. We've kind of just been bouncing around in this range, and you'll see later in this episode why, or potentially why, we saw a little dip in the price. So obviously, I think most of this episode is probably going to talk about Caroline Ellison and her testimony in the Sam Bankman-Fried trial. So there's a bunch of highlights, a bunch of things to talk about, some crazy news circling from what she said, including stuff about Thai prostitutes, which is, quite hilarious. So a lot of people are making memes talking about how all the FTX customer funds got used on, cocaine and hookers. So pretty crazy, as we kind of expected if you've been following along, as I've been following the FTX trial. So this is a pretty lengthy article. I'll leave it linked in the description if you want to, go through all the details. But I picked out a few key highlights that we can talk about. So this is from day 1 and 2 of her testimony. So I felt a sense of relief that I didn't have to lie anymore, Ellison testified. Bankman-Fried, the defendant, did not look up as she wept, so she was crying a lot during her testimony, but kept typing on his court-issued laptop. So this has kind of been something throughout the case where he's been on this laptop and pretty much glued to it, not doing anything else. I guess, all of us are probably wondering what exactly he's doing on this laptop. Maybe he's moving around the FTX stolen funds. So she said that the balance sheet was a version of the one Alameda sent to its lenders, designed to mislead them into thinking Alameda was healthier financially than it really was. She called it a dishonest document. But even the fudge numbers were ugly enough, brimming with FTX's FTT token and other tokens closely related to Bankman-Fried, to raise questions about how viable Alameda and FTX were. So if you go back, they're just talking about the actual day and week of the collapse where this balance sheet came out actually through CoinDesk. It actually says CoinDesk won 3 journalism awards for its reporting that set off the chain of events leading to FTX's collapse. CoinDesk was the ones, they were the ones who broke the story about, FTX and possibly them being illiquid and insolvent. So, it just kind of like an interesting trail of events, and obviously you get to hear it from the key insider, other than SBF himself, who was like directly involved in all this, the creation of these balance sheets and stuff like that. So she talked about how they used FTX's line of credit to Alameda to repay other creditors who were coming for them, basically looking for their money back. So big ones were like Celsius, Genesis, and others who basically were asking for their loans to FTX to come back to them. And then also you had really big, institutions and people withdrawing from the exchange. So this was like the lead dominoes that kind of led to the collapse. So she gave this extra piece of information, which is new, obviously. But there was apparently some sort of unnamed exchange that was prosecuted and taken down in China. And she talked about how they bribed Chinese officials to get those funds back. And then she said, Ellison said they then tried and again failed to release the funds through a scheme involving the creation of fake exchange accounts using the identities of Thai prostitutes. So that's where everyone's getting that Thai prostitute meme from. But just like a whole crazy story. So apparently they bribed Chinese officials up to like $150 million in order to get their money out of this exchange that basically collapsed in China and was being regulated, and they were being actually looked into for money laundering. So just kind of an interesting extra piece. So she, as she kind of was doing during her whole testimony, was kind of giving us the inside look, which we were all expecting from her. So included was a personal to-do list. So this was submitted to the court, and it contained the item getting regulators to crack down on Binance. So this is another big headline that her testimony made, which is that Sam was actually trying to get Binance prosecuted by U.S. regulators. And apparently, regulators had, she said, regulators had been promising him this would happen for a while. So he clearly was, had this whole plan about, cracking down on Binance. And I think he also said here, or she said, Sam said that he thought it would be one of the best potential ways for FTX to increase market share, Ellison said. So, kind of interesting. Last couple things here. So, they just basically, she talked about all the different balance sheets that she was creating. So she was obviously making up these fake balance sheets to send out to lenders. So at one point she said they created 7 different alternative balance sheets for them to consider sending to lenders to obviously confuse them about, the solvency of FTX and Alameda. It was after Celsius's request that SBF said he was considering selling FTX shares to bin Salman to raise more money to repay Alameda's lenders. So here she's talking about how they were trying to get money from a Saudi Arabian prince to help them in their time of trouble. So finally, the documents, according to Ellison, showed that Alameda had taken more than $10 billion from customers of FTX by May 2022. So we all kind of knew that. And they were keeping internal documents that tracked it. So, for anyone that said, and SBF was famously came out on Twitter after all this happened and said that he was so sorry and he never expected this and it happened all of a sudden and it wasn't his fault and stuff like that. But there's, Ellison's revealing kind of all these internal documents and spreadsheets that show that none of that is the case. Her final thing here that I'll say, Bankman-Fried gave us a lot of instructions about FTT. At various points, he instructed us to buy if there was a large amount of selling or if the price was going down too much, she said. So talking about propping up the price of FTT, Sam Bankman-Fried and Caroline Ellison and others at the company obviously conspired to prop up the price of FTT, which, and that was kind of like how the whole thing broke down was they had too much FTT on their balance sheet. And if the price started going down, they would be insolvent. So that's kind of how that all played out. So related to all of this stuff, a court approves Genesis settlement of $175 million to FTX, expunges billions in claims. So I was reading through here, and apparently Genesis owed FTX about $3 billion, or maybe even close to $3.9 billion. And they got away with paying just $175 million in their settlement. So FTX creditors, who are obviously trying to claw back as much money as they can from, the industry and from, people that SBF paid off, they were, they're not happy about that. Michael Saylor, so moving from all the trial stuff and FTX stuff to some positive news, Michael Saylor thinks that the spot Bitcoin ETF will 10 to 100x the price of Bitcoin. So obviously we're at like 26K right now. So 250K to $2.5 million per coin. That would be nice to see. I would love to see it. I think we're all pretty bullish on the spot ETF for Bitcoin. I'm pretty confident we're going to see it sometime by Q2 next year, but let's see. So CPI rose 0.4%. This is possibly, like I said earlier in the episode, possibly the reason for Bitcoin going down in price a little bit. And, all markets are kind of down since this news. So the more key piece of information, which is probably why the price is down, currently rate traders are expecting just about a 10% chance that the rate hike could come at the Fed's November meeting, but the odds go up 30% by year end. Confusing wording there. So, the odds of a rate hike are increasing, and, people who kind of predict this stuff, and obviously they're not always right, are thinking that the odds of a rate hike are pretty high by the end of the year. So I guess we'll see what happens. Some analysts are a lot more confident in the rate hike than others. Most people, from what I can tell, think that the Fed is just not going to do anything. So they'll just pause, as they have for the last few months, just pause the rate hikes and kind of let the market play out how the market plays out. Typically what the Fed does, and this is my perspective, and I've talked about it before, is that they say one thing, but they have an entirely different plan of what they're going to do. And a big reason for that is to create uncertainty in the markets, because you don't want people to know necessarily what's going to happen. Because, if they announce that they're going to start decreasing interest rates, then all the assets go up, and then all the work that they're trying to do to reduce asset prices and calm inflation get reversed. So they kind of have to play this intricate game of what they do and what they say. So I always kind of look at this stuff with one eye on what they're saying and one eye on what they're doing. Final piece of news, something that's kind of interesting. So Stars Arena was this social fi platform that kind of popped up as a clone of Friendtech. And then, a few days after launching, they got hacked through a smart contract flaw. And then on chain, the hacker reached out to the Stars Arena team and said that he would like to cooperate. He, she, they, whatever, would like to cooperate. And then the team responded with asking for their email address. And then the hacker responded and said they want to keep it on the chain. So just kind of a funny, like this X post is saying, kind of some funny James Bond type of shit. So that's all I got for today. I will see you guys after the weekend. Have a good one.